Okay, it's below the x-axis on page 30 here. Below the axis where? 1.
15.
Yeah, good. Yesterday we extended this out and we realized it kept going up 1, over 2, up 1, over 2. And this point right here was at 15. So it's below the x-axis from 1 to 15. Would it include 1 and 15? No, because 1 and 15 are actually at 0. It wouldn't be less than 0. Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that at those 2 points, everything is below? So it's like...
I'm saying from here to here, it's below. Just on the dotted lines. That's the f of x. That's an interval, so it starts at that first one and ends at that last number. Good question. Okay. So the value of x such that f of x times g of x is less than 0. So this one's a little different. Oops. If f of x times g of x is less than 0, then the graphs of f of x and g of x are on opposite sides of the x-axis. Now let's think about why that would be true. How do you get something less than 0 is negative, right? What has to be true when you're multiplying two numbers in order to get a negative? One has to be positive and one has to be negative. That's why this is saying they have to be on opposite sides. Because one of them is going to have to be on the positive side, and then one of them is going to have to be on the negative side.
And those are the opposite graphs.
Opposite sides of the x-axis. So either the up part or the down part. And this is for each graph. So the green graph and the dotted graph. So for example, get rid of all these extra colors. So for example, it's below the graph here on g of x, and that is above the graph in the exact same spot. So those would be, if I multiplied those two values together, I would get a negative. And that is from, well, I can't include negative 11. Why? It's not a part of this graph, but I can go from negative 9 to this point right here, which is negative 5. So from negative 9 to negative 5, the pink lines are on opposite sides of the x-axis. So I would say negative 9 to negative 5. I would not include it actually looks like it crosses right here, 4.5, but we'll round up to 5, it's fine. I lost my train of thought. That's okay. So now all of it's above until we get, change the color, right here. This one is below. And it's above right there. From 1 to 6. Because 1 for this one is down here. This one's up here. All of this is above. All of this is below. So union 1 to 6. And then what would be the last part?
10.5 to 11.
I would agree, yeah. 10.5, ooh, let me change colors. 10.5 to 11. That would be 10.5 here. And then I'm also going to have to stop at 11 because that's where the one above it stopped. And it would include, would include 11 because that's a filled-in circle there. I didn't include the -9 because it was an open circle here. Yes.
What's 11 a bracket? Is it because it's closed?
Yes, because 11 is closed circle, and 11 is definitely above the 11 down here. Anything else? All right. Now we're going the other way. If f of x times g of x is greater than 0, then what do we know about f of x and g of x? Yep. Then f of x and g of x are on the same side. They both have to be negative or both have to be positive. So you go ahead and look at those graphs and see if you can write where they're on the same side. Anybody can give me one interval where they're either both above or both below?
-4.5 to 1.
Okay. If you said -5, that's okay. I did the same thing earlier. It's technically, it looks like it's right here in between, so we're estimating it. But negative 4.5 to 1. Somebody grab that, please. And then negative 4.5 to 1. Those are both above the x-axis. The negative 4.5 would not be included because, although it is a filled-in circle, negative 4.5 is actually at 0, so it wouldn't be above the x-axis technically there. And same thing with the 1. The 1 would not be included because the 1 is not technically above the x-axis, it's right on the x-axis. So we'd write that as negative 4.5 to 1. Okay, what's another one?
6 to 10.5.
Okay. 6 to 10.5. 6 to 10.5. Those are both below. 6 will not be a bracket because 6 is actually on the x-axis for the solid line. Same thing with 10.5. But they are both below the x-axis. So we would say union 6 to 10.5. Okay, so here's h of x. We are going to figure out the equation for that. This is really going back to the very first lesson that we did.